tossing, turning, staying up all night long. Just want you by my side.
Chapter 2 1996, Number 12 Grimmauld Place. Harry Potter did not like this plan. He did not like it at all. Dumbledore, in his infinite wisdom, had decided that he just wasn't cutting it and that they should summon a hero, the actual term used was Vanquisher of Voldemort, from another dimension and then somehow convince this unfortunate person into helping them with their own Dark Lord problem. Harry didn't know where Dumbledore got this ritual from, but he could feel in his bones that it was going to end very, very badly. Harry rather doubted that any Vanquisher they summoned would be in any sort of mind to actually help them. If someone pulled him from his dimension by dubiously legal means and expected him to fight their war for them, he'd probably laugh in their faces, tell them to go to hell, and to do creative things to themselves with a nearby chair leg while they were at it. There were just so many things that could go wrong with this ritual, and Harry was slightly horrified with himself that he'd let Dumbledore talk him into actually being present for this abomination, even if he'd managed to wiggle out of actively participating. The magic had gotten progressively thicker until it was a little hard to breathe, until it leveled out at the point where Dumbledore had told them being the Order of the Phoenix, of course, that the ritual was making contact with the hero on the other side. This was necessary because, apparently, the magic was supposed to implant a compulsion in the recipient to follow the pull back to this dimension, which Harry found rather sketchy, but he'd been outvoted on the matter and encouraged them to come along without fighting the ritual, which could damage all parties involved. What was not supposed to happen was the magic pull being pulled back. The whole room seemed to jerk in place, as if some sort of god had just gripped hold of reality and yanked on it. Everyone began talking over each other in shock and surprise, wondering what had just happened and if the ritual was working right. As the uneasy feeling in Harry grew, almost without thought, his green eyes met black as the only other protesting party met his gaze from across the room. Incredulously, Harry realized that only he and Snape seemed to have realized that the ritual worked just fine. It was just whatever they'd hooked on the end of. Their line was far, far bigger than they were. Guys, Harry ventured tentatively, going largely unheard in the chaos, but pressing on regardless. This is a really bad idea. He was, of course, ignored. Dumbledore twinkled reassuringly at them all, raising his hands benevolently as a gesture for calm. Please, settle down everyone. The ritual is working correctly, we simply miscalculated how much power it must take to cross dimensions in such a fashion. And as if to prove this statement, the magic in the air doubled itself as Dumbledore obviously pushed himself even further, which slightly impressed Harry, but he was far too horrified to honestly care about how much magic the old man was throwing around. Just as Harry thought the magic in the air would drown them all, it all seemed to be sucked to the middle of the room just as the air ripped itself in half. A huge, jagged crack had just appeared in midair, showing nothing but empty, formless black on the other side. Harry's unease tripled itself. A pale, long-fingered hand gently curled around one edge of the tier. In reality, a large silver ring set with a black stone adorning one bony finger as a booted leg stepped out of the rip and onto the wooden floor, which blackened and began to rot immediately. A man emerged from the crack as if this sort of thing happened every day, draped in black and silver that curled around him like an intangible serpent, and the tier sealed itself up behind him as if it had never been. Harry stared. The man was tall, very tall, but there seemed to be almost no flesh on him at all. He was all bones and sharp angles and unnaturally long limbs, with a mane of black hair that writhed in place and evaporated itself like colorless, smokeless fire set over eyes that were an unforgettable shade of electric green. Avada Kedavra green. The grin on the man's face sent a cold chill down Harry's spine. It seemed to crack his face in half from ear to ear. It was as if the man's flesh were made of clay, and the smile had caused tiny fissures in his skin, and his jaws were full of inhuman, nightmarish fangs unlike anything he'd seen on any sort of creature, magical or otherwise. There was a silver cloak over his black robes that seemed to move and ripple like liquid, pinned together by a strange silver symbol of three shapes that had Dumbledore choking on his own saliva. All this, Harry noticed in an instant. And then the man's aura washed over the room. It was the bite of hoarfrost, the rattling breath of a dementor, the heartbreaking scream of a mother holding the corpse of their child, the hysterical laughter of a man staring death in the face. It was unfathomable, outside of human comprehension in every meaning of the word, A single ripple of it lanced outward from the man in a tangible shockwave of power that lasted only a single instant, and every heart in the room skipped several beats in shock as everyone fell to their knees, gasping for breath and clutching at their chests. Then the aura was visibly pulled in, locked inside this creature and stored away like a slumbering dragon. The creature looked around the room, Glasgow grin still filling its face, until those killing curse eyes landed on Dumbledore and sharped into something impossibly dangerous. The beast opened its fanged maw, a black tongue too long for a human, too long, licking over its lips as it spoke. Albus Dumbledore. It breathed, a rattling gasp that bypassed their ears as irrelevant, speaking directly to their very souls. Harry inhaled deep, desperate for air, and wondered just what sort of monster Dumbledore had called here. The large grin cracked impossibly wider. You summoned me. Harry closed his eyes against the horrible whisper of a voice, grating on his nerves like sandpaper, and prayed for death to take them swiftly, because he doubted this creature would make it fast or at all painless. As if it had heard him, the creature's electric eyes flicked towards him, its jaws clenching together in an interlocking mass of fangs and razor-sharp teeth as the smile took a more feral turn, pupils expanding like ink in water until they covered both iris and sclera, leaving only an expanse of black. Harry did not like that smile. He did not like it at all. He liked the rasping, deep laugh that followed even less. That's the end of this chapter. Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe for more and to help this channel grow. See you next time. Bye.